Well, folks, I think I put off the inevitable for a little bit too long with this old roof. We got a leak. And you can see here, we got water seeping through the ceiling, coming down in behind the trim there. Last night it was dripping, falling down, hitting the windowsill, and then splashing everywhere. So I just put up this little piece of plastic so the drips would hit this and then just follow down and go into that pail. And it's working because the floor is dry, the water's not going everywhere, keeping the furniture dry. So we got that taken care of. I've been intending on putting a metal roof on this place for a few years now, but I always had so many other things to do, and the roof didn't leak, so I just put it on the back burner. It's finally caught up with me. Last few years I was watching the ice dams growing, and then I'm going, getting to the point where I'm concerned about it. Then we have a little warm spell, a few days of rain, flushes everything off of the roof. Perfect. Then the cold comes, ice dams are building back up, but then we had more rain. Haven't had any leaks. This year, well, this year's been an old-fashioned winter. We haven't had any warm spells up until last week. It's been nothing but snow and cold. And I know that I'm not alone because when I drive around, I see a lot of houses with big, thick ice dams on the eave. So it's just that type of weather for it. And when you take an old place like this that has some mouse-riddled insulation in the ceiling, inadequate ventilation in the roof, old roofing, that's the potential for problems like this. So it's finally caught up with me. But, you know, it's going to be a pain in the butt. I got to get out there, I got to chop out that ice dam, get the water flowing, get all of that off. And I waited up until now to get it done because we have a warm spell coming. And that'll allow everything to melt off of the roof. So I'm going to get it done. I'm just grateful and thankful that I don't have a sheetrock ceiling or sheetrock walls where the leak is. Because when drywall gets wet, it gets ruined. And it also, if it stays up, then you have the potential for the black mold. But here, with the wooden ceiling, wooden walls, not a problem. I'll just get the water flowing, get the leak stopped, things will dry out, we'll be good as new. You always got to look at the bright side of things, folks, because it always could be worse. Well, as much as I hate doing this, I've got to get up there and chop this ice away. And as tempting as it is to go up there with the hatchet and be banging away at it, I'm not going to do that because it's too easy to damage the roof that way. These shingles here, you know, are probably 45 years old. They're brittle. But this is the situation I have, and I've got to stop the leaks. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to get that on the edge of the ice dam, and I'm going to be banging it away and removing it in chunks. And I'm going to get down to about that far from the shingles, hoping that this warm spell will melt that ice away. The other side of the roof will be better because it'll have a little bit more sun, but this is the north side, it won't have any sun. So anyway, this is what I've got to get started. Miserable project, got to wear safety glasses, the stuff, ice chunks in the eyes and the face and everything, no fun. That's why it's so much better to just do it right and avoid it. But like I said, this cabin was built before I was even born, so I'm not to blame. Well, I'll have to admit, grabbing an axe or a sledgehammer and beating the snot out of the ice dam may be tempting, but I'll have to take a more subtle approach with this old roof. Using the hatchet like a chisel and hammering on the back of it will give me more control than swinging it into the ice. I'll just chisel it down to within an inch or so of the shingles. I think this is going to work out all right. As I'm chopping through some of this clear ice, I can see water moving beneath it. So as long as I can open up some spots where the water will drain out, the more it drains, the more it'll open a cavern beneath this ice and loosen stuff up. And hopefully then later I can come up and hit it and it'll break free. But I am seeing water dripping out, so We're on the right path here. Those border collies don't like being left out of the fun, so they make fun of their own. While I'm outside chiseling ice, they're using my box spring and mattress like two kids in a bouncy house. See what I mean? You're probably wondering why I don't have a roof rake. Well, I do have one. It's just at my other cabin, and that's why I'm not using it today. The shovel may be slow and less convenient, but she'll do. This project will be done today.
What Daddy doing?
Well, now that that's taken care of, I think we'll be all set for the rest of the winter. I'll put a metal roof on that sometime this coming summer, and the problem will be solved. Now, all of those ice dams were created because the roof has inadequate insulation and ventilation. Now, I'm going to take you out to the chicken coop. I'm going to show you how to ventilate the roof properly, but before we go out there, I'll show you a little diagram here of why ice dams occur in the first place. Okay, so what I'm showing you here, this is a roof diagram. These are the walls, these are the roof rafters. This configuration is for a building with a cathedral ceiling where you will be insulating the roof rafters. Ice dams form because snow builds up on the roof. Snow is an insulator. The insulation here warms up. If it doesn't have adequate ventilation, the roof warms up. The snow insulates, traps that heat under here. It melts the snow that is touching the roof. Gravity pulls it down. It drips down to the eave. When it reaches the unheated portion, it starts to freeze. It freezes and it builds up, creates a dam. This continues to melt, drip down, reaches the dam, and what happens with the dam? It backs up water. Water backs up under your roofing material, and then you have a leak. So to avoid all of this, we need to ventilate this roof. I'm going to show you how to insulate a cathedral type of roof, and you would have a ridge vent out the top. You have soffit vent here, so cold air can vacuum up. It goes over your insulation, between your insulation and your roof sheathing, and then exit out the ridge pole. For a building that has a flat ceiling, the walls are insulated and the flat ceiling is insulated, and more often than not the attic is left cold. To have the cold air come up through your soffit vent, it would come up into your attic, but it needs a place to escape. The most efficient way is with a ridge vent, but you can also do it just with a gable end vent, like that. Okay, to avoid the ice dams and all of the problems associated with them, we need to keep the roof cold. And to achieve that, we need to keep it well ventilated. One problem that I see novice builders do is they have the roof rafters up in the wall, and then they put insulation in here, just like that. That is a very big mistake, okay? This insulation will absorb the heat generated inside your building. The heat will transfer up and get your roof sheathing warm. And when your roof sheathing is warm and you have snow on top of it, the snow will insulate that. It'll melt and it'll drip down to the eave, which I have already discussed. The easiest way to keep the roof ventilated is with rafter vent, like this. This goes in here. You bring it down just past the top of the wall. You don't want to go all the way down to your fascia. Just beyond this wall. This stuff comes, I think it's 3 or 4 foot lengths. all right? So to run from ridgepole to eave, you're going to need multiple links. What I would do is I would start up at the top, up at your ridge, nail that piece in place first. Then you come with your second layer and overlap it a little bit, like that. You don't want to start at the eave and then overlap it like that, because if you have condensation dripping down here, you want to have the shingle effect like that and drip it right out through your soffit. If you do this, it'll drip under your next layer and get your insulation wet. It's just something to consider when you're putting this in. So I'll put in a short piece as an example. All right, I'm going to put that in just past the wall, staple it in place, and you slip in your insulation, again, just past your sheathing, staple it into place. Now if you have any heat loss, the roof will vent, it'll suck cold air through your soffit vent, and it'll act like a vacuum. It'll go right out, either through your ridge vent or your gable end vent, and your roof will stay cold. There are other methods that you can use, but this is the most common and the simplest one to install. Just like that. And then on the outside of the building, I have the eave enclosed to keep rodents and insects out of my insulation, but I have a vent strip which will allow cold air to vacuum up in and go over the ridge vent that I just showed you. Now you see why you don't want to push your insulation all the way out to your fascia, because you would block that vent. You just want to come out just beyond your wall sheathing. And that's it, man. So as you can see, adequate ventilation is extremely important, but I want to share something with you that I feel is even more important than just ventilation. Now, on most of my structures, as soon as I have the roof sheathing down, I cover the entire roof with an ice and water shield. Now sure, it costs me a few extra bucks, but I feel it's worth it. Not only does it give me peace of mind that if we have a hurricane and some shingles blow off my roof, chances are the water will never penetrate the ice and water shield. Not only that, but it takes the rush out of putting the roof down. I can cover the roof with ice and water shield in no time at all, and then take my time to get the rest of the roofing down. So both this brand and the Grace Ice and Water Shield, they come in 3-foot width. It's a sticky membrane. This is the Home Depot brand. It's granulated on one side, but the Grace brand is not granulated. It's a very smooth, kind of a rubbery surface. When I built the screen porch 2 years ago, I put ice and water shield over the plywood, and I haven't put my finished roofing down yet. For 2 winters now, all it has is 1 layer of ice and water shield, and no leaks whatsoever. It's worth the money, and I highly recommend it. So there we go, folks. We got all the ice dam off, and I pulled all the snow off that I could reach, and then we had a few days of warm weather and a little bit of rain, and everything flushed off the roof, and there was no damage to the shingles. There's a very popular and less labor-intensive method of getting rid of ice dams, and that's simply to melt them. Either using rock salt or some other form of ice melt that you would spread on your steps and walkways. I don't want to use that here because we feed the birds and the squirrels right up close to the camp. They provide a lot of entertainment for us. And in the wintertime, water is hard to find for them, and we'll always see them drinking from the icicle drip. Also, Tildy likes to chew up icicles. She'll grab little pieces of icicle runoff and chew them up. So I don't want to have anything in the water, and I can't picture even simple rock salt being very healthy for them, so I'm not going to use that. But as you can see, the problem is solved. We're good to go till the rest of the winter. We'll get a new roof on this place, and then we will be all set from here on in. But the best way to eliminate the problem is to avoid the problem in the first place and just build it right with the methods that I just showed you. Yeah. So I hope you found this information to be beneficial. If you're new to my channel, there's a lot more building tips like this on my channel and more coming at you in the future. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah. So that's it for now, folks. All the best to you and God bless.
Frankie and the boss out walking in the woods, living life happy and free. Tracks in the snow everywhere they go. There's a pokey way up in that tree. A beaver built a pond where they have some fun, taking life a day at a time. Best friends until the end. Frankie and the boss. Frankie and the boss. Frankie and the boss.